Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Let's start this great debate, which really is not a debate, it's a fun come learn. So, which means fun is first. Okay. We have three panelists have joined. Vedi also is coming. Great. So, we have full house and the judge, which is Advocate Puneet Bhasin. I'll start
Hey,
sharing my
Daman,
screen
I have
first.
Vaidi here.
I'll start sharing my screen first and we start the discussions, not the debate. I hope you can see this. All right.
Yes.
So this is episode 3. Response has been good. I like it. Thank you very much. In the beginning, I'm saying thanks to the judge and the panelists, and also thanks to the participants. Without them, without you, any session wouldn't be successful. So myself, moderator, the name is Daman Dev Sood. On the panel, we have Nandini, who has joined us from Canada, Toronto today. She's pursuing PhD, I believe PhD in BCM. She's MBA, CBCI, CBCP, and she knows 7 languages. So at least on that front, she has multiple backups, it seems, up to 7. Generally, we stop at 1 backup, second backup, something like that. We have Saurabh Sharma, who is Chief Manager and CISO at Petronet LNG Limited. We have Dr. Shiv Dhawan, former Regional Crisis Management Lead at TCS for the Northern region. Vaidi Chandramouli, Corporate BCM Team Wipro Limited, and the judge, Advocate Puneet Bhasin, who is international cyber law expert, privacy and data protection and GDPR, cyber crimes, TEDx speaker, thought leader, author, long list. Actually, I couldn't have all that on the screen. Great. So welcome once again. The topic today we have taken is NDA and force majeure clause. The way I wrote, perhaps it would appear to people that it is NDA and force majeure clause. We are going to be discussing NDA separately and force majeure separately. I don't mean to say that there is any relationship between these two. And I picked up some cases. These cases are real cases from NDAs first. So we may not be able to complete this debate today, it seems to me. I had to control myself to about 5-6 cases because I was getting many more cases on NDA itself. So let's see. I'll present the case to you all. And my request is, there is no particular order. Anyone could raise hand and say, but because we have many cases to cover, intention is to cover many. Take 1-2 minutes, please, each one. Okay. So let's see what's the first one. And these are all live, by the way. This is what I'll repeat once again. I hope you are all ready. So within ND, there are many clauses we know. One of those which is with is respect to time periods in front of you. I'll read it. You can read it with me. The panelists, judge, as well as the audience. The non-disclosure provisions of this agreement shall survive the termination of this agreement, and receiving parties' duty to hold confidential information in confidence shall remain in effect until the confidential information no longer qualifies as a trade secret or until receiving party gets written notice releasing receiving party from this agreement, whichever occurs first. What does this mean? It means to me there is no end date. And I'm holding the rest of what I had written. It's over to you, panelists, one by one, 1-2 minutes. What is your impression about this? What is their interpretation of this? Anyone can just raise hand. Go ahead.
Daman, first of all, this is pretty nebulous in the sense that, did you say could you just go back? It's still the such time that just go back to the phrase. I want to talk about a particular phrase of that. Yeah, now we are talking time until it is no longer qualified as a trade secret. Now, how on earth are we going to, who is going to turn around and say that this is no longer a trade secret?
Okay.
You know, this is something normally, professionally, any organization is if there's any service provider would definitely not share critical information of what services they're providing. So anyway, there, but this is something there is no timeline, you know.
So what? We
So
understand
on
there is no
this,
timeline.
yeah. So if there is no timeline, it's just we are saying that are we saying that if it is no longer trade secret, I can share everything that I've done on this? You see?
I think so. I feel so. I believe so. This is how
No,
I interpret it.
it is not telling me what power. A non-disclosure actually, is it a limited non-disclosure? Am I actually not even taking the name of the client? Sometimes clients do not want to even be mentioned that they have got an X kind of service done.
I agree.
So is it that I will not even say that X, Y, if I'm saying I'm talking about a financial institution or something, I will not even mention. I mean, in my credentials, in my corporate credentials, I will not even say that I am a service provider to XYZ organization.
Right.
Or I'm a service provider, but and
I
then I'll
understand,
put
Chef.
in my nebulous stuff.
Yes, I understand, Chef. I need to move
Yeah.
on. But you know, that is also one of the possible debatable clauses. I have not picked up that, by the way, in 5-6 cases that I'm going to be taking this evening. But I agree with you. Even that could be a challenge, and there are some NDAs like that you can't even disclose that you're working with me for me. Great. Thank you very much. Who wants to be the next one?
I would like to go, if
Yeah.
that's okay.
Go ahead. Yes, Nandini, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Shiv, and also I think this is not a usual practice. What I see the snapshot of it, if it's from the real sample, as you mentioned, Daman, because I think this is biased and unjust. One, because what are the trade secrets? I hope the rest of the agreement mentions specifically, like what should be listed as trade secrets. And there is no time period. It doesn't have any end period, as you have mentioned. So it's completely on the other party, and it's not justifiable. It's biased and it's unjust, and it's not a usual practice to sign such kind of NDA because you're completely, tied up. You don't know when it ends. Who decides the end period? Who says that these trade secrets are no longer until they are like publicly available, until they become a public information or so? And then otherwise a receiving party receives. What if the other party doesn't give anything in written? How long am I supposed, or the other party who signed, supposed to keep those secrets? Definitely there should be a starting date and an end date.
Thank you very much, Nandini. Saurabh, I'm going to play difficult with you. I'm going to play a role now. All right. You become the customer. No, sorry. Yes, you are the customer. Nandini is the vendor or the supplier. You are writing this NDA clause.
Yeah.
All right. And you have
So
sent it to her.
basically, it's my
Hold
NDA.
on.
Okay.
You have written this and you have sent this to the vendor. Please sign this NDA because we are going to enter into an agreement to start some services. Nandini will be providing some services to you. Nandini says, I will not sign. Am I right? Go
Yes,
ahead, please.
correct.
Go ahead, please, both of you.
So, Nandini, basically, I need your services and you are going to provide. So, naturally, I want to protect my trade secrets, and I need to protect myself from any disclosure, any unintentional disclosure by you. So, that's why we have put that clause in the NDA. And
I understand your needs to protect your trade secrets, But then there has to be a starting date and end date, as I mentioned before, and also a clear specification of what information you want to keep as trade secret. Because I also need to, I'm not an exclusive vendor for yourself. I also need to serve other clients. So you need to understand, if I sign such kind of an NDA with you, I set a precedence that I need other vendors or other customers might also ask me to do the same thing, and I'm not comfortable. I don't think this is a just ask from you or a fair ask from you.
Hold on, please. So all panelists, all cases, right? Stay within the case, please, right? That in an NDA, you would have seen those services also. What services are you going to be providing, and what are these confidential information that we are talking of? In this case, it's not clear, right? So that's what I'm saying. Please stay in the case. So Saurabh, quickly, before I go to Vedi, Nandini says it's unjust. She wouldn't write. She's not
Nandini,
comfortable.
yeah,
She wouldn't sign. She's not comfortable.
right. So Nandini, basically, why you required to disclose my information to other
Saurabh,
business?
question is not. She's not saying she would disclose. What she's saying is within this clause, because there is no end date, she is not comfortable signing without end date.
Yes,
That's what the.
exactly.
So
My
are
intention
you going to
is
say
not to disclose.
take it or leave it?
Yeah.
Saurabh, you are the customer. Are you
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
say take it or leave it,
yeah.
or are you?
Naturally, it's my privilege to have the customers, a company to serve me, and I need to protect my company's secrets, confidential information is my first priority. So if you are not agreeing with this NDA, you have to think about that, because then I need to choose another service provider.
Thank you very much. Vedi, your observations so far, any comments, impressions, whichever way you want to go on.
Okay,
You can also attempt to play another customer with Nandini.
Okay, so now I'll just give my comment so far, what I have, and then I'll share my views. So in this case, it very clearly says that until that particular confidential information cease to exist, so there has to be some level of notification. Otherwise, we may not know when that particular thing gets there. Otherwise, it's a clause where it does not have an end date. So that is what I would see. Otherwise, we have to go with any standard this thing. If the contract is over, and then if anything has to be there, if from a legal standpoint, if we have to have maintenance for 7 years, then we will have to maintain it for 7 years.
Okay, great. Thank you.
After the ceasing, after the contract is, contract cease to exist.
Okay, thanks. When RV hand is up, but before I go to you, RV, let me invite our judge. Normally we say there is not real judging. This person is going to summarize the session at the end and give his or her own opinion also. But this is NDA, it's kind of legal. And also Puneet, while she has joined us, great. We are thankful to her. She is a bit sick, down with food poisoning. That's the reason that she's not switching on the camera. So I'd like to take her inputs immediately as we the panelists stop talking. So Puneet, as an advocate, what would you say? Who needs to bend, the customer, Saurabh, or the vendor, Nandini?
Well, Daman, actually in NDAs, if you see it practically, there has to be a middle path. Now, if I have to look at it from a customer perspective, I would always say there has to be non-disclosure and perpetuity, which should be a mandatory clause. Like I've seen umpteen NDAs which talk about, up to 5 years, you won't disclose information,
Right.
up to 2 years, up to 10 years.
Right.
And honestly, that's a very useless concept at some point of time. Because you're kind of putting a time limitation. A non-disclosure should be ideally in perpetuity, especially if you do not want, an employee from this organization going to another. Because I'll tell you, you're binding the organization. The people in the organization, many times NDAs even do not have this clause that, it is binding upon every single employee and them in their next employment source.
Okay.
So these are a few crucial points from a customer perspective.
Mhm.
And yes, from a service provider perspective, if a person is very, very rigid about it, there has to be kind of a classification where, let's say, a disclosure, if I have similar clients and I'm dealing with similar data,
Okay.
So, okay, fine. Then in that situation, I would want to bifurcate and I would say, okay, this data does not belong to you. It belongs to maybe another client, and I would have multiple clients. So it can be worded in a better way
Sorry.
that since I'm a service provider of the same field and I would have access to such information, then, this probably is not a confidential information or a classified information related to your product.
Okay.
So I
So
think both parties have to sit together initially and identify what is confidential, first of all, as per both their definitions,
okay.
before really proceeding to discuss clauses and the other aspects of
Sorry.
the agreements.
Right. So before we generally,
Daman, I want to add in another sub scenario to this. Okay, we have a service provider. Okay, Nandini is a service provider. She's XYZ firm. Now, this NDA is coming out. The work is being provided by a different associate from her organization to this customer.
right.
You have signed the NDA. Now, as we know, I'm taking the thing of, now we have the great attrition circus going on.
Right.
Now we have a youngster who decides to go for a few paltry thousands. He leaves our parent company, your company, my parent company, and decides to hop across to the just across the road to another company.
Mhm.
How on earth is Nandini going to enforce the NDA? Because Nandini is not violating it.
Sorry.
But
So
this guy was very angry. He's very angry at Nandini for not giving him a good appraisal. So
right.
he said, "All right, I go there and I will put you guys in the
Understand.
suit."
Right.
Now
So
what?
Shiv, thanks. I'll take this next time for sure, because I understand this is a long one, right? So let's stay within some cases. Let's stay within the cases that I'm bringing up. But this angle is good angle. There's no doubt about. RV, quickly, a minute for you.
So, okay. So I see the part of the NDA section that you project on the screen, but even Punit was mentioning what are those confidential information that will be part of the overall agreement. So today, if there is an NDA, if I take an example of that I'm probably joining an organization, I consider that NDA. So that date when I sign this agreement, that's the start date of the NDA is something I understand. And possibly when it says the agreement and the last date, when the receiving party. So the day when I move out of the organization, it ends that point in time. So all the time when during this period, I need to maintain the confidential information, something I agree. If I were to probably sign this based on the other classes, what is confidential, I'll sign it.
Right. Okay. So quickly, thank you very much. I'll show my perspective, my little bit. I'm not saying what all has been said. I do not agree with that. I understand this. So to me, implementation will be difficult. I don't know anyone whoever has written a letter. Now, Daman, now you are relieved of this agreement or this NDA that you have signed, right? So signing maybe under pressure, a person could do that because I need business. I am a service provider. You are client. You are asking me to do this. Police said that both parties need to understand. Yes, but if it doesn't happen, the customer is customer. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let me move on to the next one. All these are real ones, by the way, I'm sharing. All information and other material disclosed, furnished, communicated, or supplied by the disclosing party to the receiving party, including the receiving party's directors, officers, employees, affiliates, or its expressly authorized representatives or agents, are strictly confidential and shall not be divulged by receiving party to any third party during the term of this contract or thereafter up to a period of 3 years from the agreement effective date without disclosing parties' prior written consent. Again, over to the panelists. I'll leave this on for some time before I stop sharing so that we all become big on the screen. Anyone in any order? The panelists
much better than the previous one. Much better.
Okay.
At least we know that there is a period, sacrosanct period of 3 years, and even then, if within the 3 years, if I have to, for some particular reason, if I'm bidding elsewhere, I need to go back to the customer and tell them what I am talking about. Am I talking only about the name of the organization? Am I talking about the service I've rendered? So you as a customer still have a control on your data, which is your property.
Okay, good.
I think this is definitely a more secure way. This is a little more secure, and
Secured for
without
whom?
going secure for the customer. I mean, probably maybe the NX because now you cannot probably give a details of specific thing, but anything is anything to anybody in the other organization.
I
With
believe
any data
Nandini
you
will be happier with this. Saurabh
I'm sure
perhaps
she
is
will.
neutral on this. Saurabh has written this, but Nandini will be happier with
No,
this.
Saurabh would also be happy because Saurabh knows that if Nandini seeks to use anything, she has to come back to Saurabh and tell Saurabh, this is what I'm going to use and this is the way I'm going to use it.
Great. Thank you very much. Next, please. Who wants to go ahead? Yes, please, Nandini.
Yeah, I agree. This version is better than the previous version in a way that is not completely unjust or biased towards the customer. As me, as a service provider, it gives me a little bit of flexibility. But again, as Mr. Shiv said, I need to go back to my customer to ask his written consent, which again would depend after 3 years or after the contract termination, what kind of relationship would we have.
Okay.
So it still needs more clarity for me to sign as a service provider.
Right. I'm not sharing all full NDA, so I understand there'll be some limitations in this discussion. Understood. Great. Thanks. Next one, please. Anyone? Vaidi, Saurabh.
Yeah,
Saurabh,
it
right.
basically depends what information I am sharing in this contract.
Mhm.
If the information is only will be confidential for up to contract or after 3 years of the contract ending, then it's okay. It serves my purpose. But if I am disclosing any information or in the contract which need a longer period of confidentiality, then it should be I should not write this blanket time period for the
So the
customer
first
service.
one was better for you, Saurabh, that forever I was bound with that if I had
Right.
signed, right? This one is
Right.
giving you only 3 years beyond the contract or 5 years beyond the contract or 10 years beyond the contract or
Right.
the relationship that we would be building. Okay, great. Thanks. Vaidi, do you have
So
any? Yes.
my perspective again, this is far better than the first one.
Okay.
But here again, what will happen in case it is listed, the kind of confidential information what is in the preview is listed. In case if something else is added upon during the course of this contract,
Right.
how does that take care of it? That again is a open aspect here.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Great.
Anything over and above the ones that are listed.
Right. Great. Thank you very much. Puneet, quickly. During the first case, when you're talking about, you used a word, if not phrase, a word called perpetuity. Can you explain that to us, please? What would that mean with respect to NDA? That was linked with the time period, right?
Hello. Yes, Daman. See, when we are talking about the concept of perpetuity, we mean that even after the agreement is not binding on the parties, they are bound still to maintain the information of projects that they have worked on and the details of that confidential, and not to share even post the agreement period is over. Now, as a customer, that is something which works best. And as a matter of fact, even as a service provider, I don't see any harm in a service provider signing off on that. But the main problem comes in where you have major consulting companies and service providers whose job is collecting industry intel. So what tends to happen is where the issue comes in signing off on perpetuity is where you have big organizations in consulting and they have multiple clients, they're collecting intel from these clients which is being used to further help and furnish another client. So one client comes and says, okay, I'm from this industry, what are the others doing, and I need to figure out what I should do and what is best for me.
Okay.
So the entire business model does not become workable for a lot of these organizations if people go for seeking perpetuity. But yes, that is ideally the right way to actually ensure confidentiality, and organizations further have to impose it upon their employees. So about, before you even put up this particular clause, I had already mentioned about the time period, any NDAs mentioned.
Right. So which means as an advocate, you are recommending, you are advocating that NDAs are forever. Am I right?
If they are not forever, then they're quite meaningless, especially in relation to information which may contain intellectual property related information, confidential organizational information. So it's not that, okay, today if it is leaked, there is going to be some harm. It can also be after 5 years. It can also be after 10 years, reputational loss or financial loss. So it's very difficult to quantify that after 3 years, I won't have a loss by this information getting lost. And how much of information the service provider is
That's
accessing.
good.
At some
That's
point, it is very difficult to quantify that information.
But perhaps we can quantify. That's what perhaps I'm saying, that after 3 years, it will be of no use. It will not be a trade secret, for example, for me. Now I've used it as much as I could use it. I have benefited from it as much as wanted to. So you are free.
Daman, what Puneet is saying, I
Daman.
think is making sense. Also, look, even if you have a non-disclosure thing for perpetuity, but if you have the clause that, you know, you can still share it with, you know, consent of the disclosing party. So then too, I mean, as long as you have this clause there that, you know, you can disclose it with that is good enough.
Okay, right.
I mean,
it
it is
doesn't
there
mean,
that,
by the way,
So, Daman-
my understanding is, RV, I'll come to you. My understanding is it doesn't mean that now, Daman, you can go disclose, start beating the drum. But
yes.
if you do disclose, I will not be offended. I will not take
No,
you
I
to
mean,
the
you know,
court.
you
That's what
probably-
it means.
I would say, no, if I
Right?
was a customer, I would say that you come to me, tell me how you're doing it, what form, what are you form, show me your draft of it, and if it's okay, it's not, I feel it's all right, and it will say a 20-year-old thing done, I would still say go ahead.
But
You know-
if you had asked me to hold it for 3 years, after 3 years, do I need to ask you? No, I don't need to ask you. It's only within those 3 years disclosing, I would have to come back to you. I would have to take your permission. Or if it was forever, then I would have to come back to you.
Yeah. I
If
mean,
it's
you say, I mean,
finite-
I'm saying suppose if you say it is forever, yes, but after
Okay.
3 years,
Okay.
then you may not, because then you're not contractually bound, you know.
Right. Okay. Right. Good. I'll bring one point later, perhaps. But first, RV, you,
No, I
you
have
some
one
point.
more point.
Vaidi, yes, sorry.
Vaidi here, I have one more point.
Yes.
Yes. See here, while we are talking about these, one element missing here is some of the aspect of legal or regulatory requirement of these. Okay. For example, if it is happens to be a PII information, right? So in that case, you know, any of the data protection laws, you know, if it is GDPR, or in case of tomorrow, if it is, you know, India PDP comes over, or pertaining to Singapore, or any data protection, this thing, you can't have a 3-year limit. In case if the data was not completely erased
Okay.
before the contract got
But
over, that
Vaidi,
elements brings in a,
hold on, Vaidi, but who are you to say it cannot be 3 years? Which role are you playing? Tell me, please. A customer or a vendor? As a vendor, I will always be happy if you put some years here. As a customer, you will always be happy if you say it forever.
no, see, in both the perspective, I would rather put it as both of them, both customer and the service provider are at risk because of compliance requirements of the legal aspect, right? In GDPR or any other aspect. So, you know, in case of a data breach, both of them are going to be impacted.
Sumit, can you go on mute, please?
Yeah, I just, you know, brought in this point. You know, we can debate it over anyways.
Great, thanks. Sorry about this. I had to mute here. Let me put on the next one, please. In the interest of time, I'm going with fast. I'm repeating, all these have been taken from real NDAs. Confidential material shall not be deemed to be in the public domain merely because any part of the said information is embodied in general disclosures, or because individual features, components, or combinations thereof are now or become known to the public. Who wants to be the first one this time? What are your impressions? Are you happy? Are you unhappy? Would you like to make some changes?
Mamaji, what is he saying here?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking the expert sitting here.
Yeah, I'm asking, what is he saying?
So you're
What
not
did he
happy
want to
signing
say?
this. So you will
What did
not
he
be
say?
happy signing this, right?
Well, absolutely not. I will first question ask is,
Do you recommend some changes, or you are saying, sorry, I don't want to work for this client?
no, I
You
will just
become the
ask, please,
service
sir.
provider.
My thing would be, my dear sir, please explain to me what you're saying.
No, that's not my business. I'm the customer. I have written this. Leave
You're
it
the
or
customer,
take
sir.
it.
Explain what do you expect out of me, because I don't understand.
Shiv. Then let's be practical also. If you're a service provider, you need the service to be provided by you. If I'm the customer, I need the service to be provided to me, right? We both need to survive. If you say, no, tell me, that doesn't happen like that. At the most, what is said is, if you're not happy with what I'm giving you, you are free to recommend some changes, right? So rather than asking me, Daman, what is this? You say, Daman, can it be this? So I'm looking at you if you want to make some changes, amendments in this.
No, but I would probably say that
I'm sorry, I'm being bit difficult.
no, I understand, but I'm just saying that when we deal with the public domain, it's pretty jargonistic. So I really don't know what I would say. I want to know, but again, same issue. There is no timelines in it. There is
No,
nothing
the
on.
timeline is different clause. We have discussed that. You have agreed.
Yeah.
Whether 5 years or 10 years, you signed it. On that, you don't have any objection now. You have reached to this place, and it seems you have an objection here. So based on that objection, either you will suggest, Daman, can I recommend these changes here? Or you say, Daman, sorry, I don't want to sign this NDA, which means you lose the job.
I would, and if it is that, then I would
Becoming
probably walk away.
difficult. Hold on. So others now become friend to Shiv. All right, help him. I'll switch, keep it on once again. Anyone who wants to go ahead. He is a friend, or assume you are the colleagues in the same organization, all CXOs sitting here. Let's see, what do you want to do? If you want to recommend any amendments for Shiv to be able to sign this, so that Shiv is able to get the contract.
Daman,
Yes, please.
let me help.
Yes.
So I will say, let us define the confidential information for this contract.
Okay. Which is generally defined in any NDA. We start with that. What is supposed to be confidential information? Okay.
Right. But again, if any information comes in the public domain, even then, how we will treat that information for this contract? So we can define a terminology, or we can say define a description of the informations,
Okay.
how we will treat even if it comes under the public domain.
Right. So we understand that generally it is written, this is confidential information, right? But if it's already in public domain, before you sign this NDA, then that is not confidential within this agreement. And for that reason, this particular client, this particular NDA has something extra. That's why I have picked up and I want to discuss. I don't know whether this is right or wrong. I'm not saying that. I have just brought it up for the panel to discuss. Yes, please, Vedi or Nandini.
I will not be comfortable signing this because as per my understanding, it says that even if the information is available in public domain, I am not allowed to share. So it will be difficult for me to withhold some information which is out there in public, and I might be put liable signing on this terms of the contract.
Okay.
This is my understanding of what has been written there.
Okay. So it's take it or leave it, it seems. Vedi, Arvi, is your hand on for this also, or is it the old
So
hand up?
I will put it
For
this
this
way.
also.
No, I will put it this way.
Yes,
This one, I will list out all the information already available in the public domain, and then get a sign off that this is already available. So any such
Practically
information,
not possible, right? How can
practically not possible.
What all is already
we will
available
try.
in the public
Yeah.
domain?
Yeah.
Also the world is very, changing every minute. Even after you sign the NDA, the next day something becomes public. How are you going to safeguard yourself against that? Because you've already listed down certain things, and what if tomorrow something else become publicly available.
Okay, good. Very sorry, RV. Before we move on to Puneet once again.
Yeah, so maybe with the current form, I will have a challenge, but would like to add a couple of lines which says under the written consent of wherever approval that is required. If I know certain information that I have to share, I also know it is available in public. Whether I know, I do not know. I'll go back to the organization and get an approval and do it. So that line can be added, then I will sign it.
Which is already there, that even during contract period, even the strictest confidential information you can share if you take my prior approval, written approval. It's already there in most, I would say, all NDAs that I have seen. That clause
but within
there.
the same line,
No.
when it
Why
says
do
which
we
is
need
already
in the
publicly
same
available.
line? No. It's one agreement in which one clause says that whatever you want, whenever you want, you can share if you take my prior approval. So that becomes easy to sign this clause also, according to me.
No problem. That's fine. I mean, I do then sign it. I mean, it's okay.
Otherwise, it becomes
okay
repetition, right?
Yep. See, something like an example of a GPG where or something which says, when though it's available publicly, you need to take a consent to share it with others. That's what something that it's generally being told, but I don't know how many people are following that. So something kind of that should probably be available. It's available, I can sign it.
So that's a different question. How many people are following it? That way, I didn't want to say it yet, but I'm speaking before Puneet, and maybe she would like to add into that point also. That I believe all this is based on ethics. Otherwise, you can't trace whether I'm sharing something within the contract period or beyond the contract period. So it's just by signing NDA, maybe I become a little cautious. Otherwise, it's my ethics only. Right? Pradeep, over to you. Attempt to do this both way if you are an advocate from the client side and if you're an advocate from the vendor side.
Well, actually, Daman, that is exactly what I had mentioned in the first case itself. The first thing is a meeting of minds of two people on an NDA on what is confidential. That's the first important thing of what you're calling confidential. So unfortunately, what happens in organizations is that, the NDA is normally a copy-pasted document. Nobody really understands what are they talking about. So I think from a client and a customer perspective, I have one line just to say, please customize your NDA meant for the purpose for which you are actually signing it and do not copy paste. All these issues actually happen only in a copy pasted NDA.
Right. Okay. Now let me become an employee and you all are the employers. I'm joining the company. An individual also signs, employee signs an NDA with the employer. Am I right? Say yes, no quickly. I hope there is no. All agree with me.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. And then what are you asking me? What am I doing? Do I even read? This is what we are saying. Perhaps when we take the contracts at that time, perhaps we still attempt some time in reading NDA. The day I join, HR gives me this thick bundle of paper, Daman sign, and I sign blindly. I believe no one reads, especially if it's the first one. And many stay in the first one for long, some forever also, which means the person, Daman, perhaps has never read any NDA, so especially with the employer I'm talking about. All right. Are you with me? With your permission, I would like to move on to the next one. This was the question. How do we interpret it? And we have spent some time. Great. Thank you very much. Vedi and RV, if you switch on cameras, that'll be great. Session is being recorded. So when the speaker speaks, he or she becomes big, right? Otherwise, it becomes a blank screen. Puneet has already expressed that she cannot switch on the camera today. We have understood that. The next one, confidential material, including permitted copies, shall remain the property of the disclosing party. Within 30 days of a written request by the disclosing party, the recipient shall return all confidential material and all copies of the same to the disclosing party. The recipient shall certify in writing that it has satisfied its obligations under this clause 7 upon a written request by the disclosing party. Hope all have read it, and hands can go up. Panelists first. What is your impression? How do you interpret it? Would you like to make some changes, suggest, recommend some changes here?
I would
Deletion?
like to go.
Yes, Nandini, go ahead, please.
So this is usually seen in NDA. I've seen it many times, but I'm still not confident in signing it because it says I need to return it back. Yes, I'm ready to return it back, but it also says that I have to get it, written from the other party that I have done all the steps necessary.
Okay.
So instead of return request returning back, I would also like to add that I have done all possible reasonable steps I have taken to destroy it or to give it, return it back. And I'm not comfortable by saying that I need to have a written, certification from the other party that I have done. There has to be reasonable steps from my side of what
before we
included
go
in it to return it or to destroy it.
Great, thank you very much. Before we go to other panelists, I'm adding a little bit. Hold on, Shiv, please. Right. Before that, a question to all. I believe with panelists, judge, the moderator, and the participants, we have about 300 years of experience sitting here today. All right. Question is, have you ever received a request from your client that you destroy all the confidential information? Quick poll, please type it in the chat box. I would like to monitor. You have only two options, yes, no. Have you ever received any such requests from any client that please destroy all the confidential information that we exchange during our relationship? 2 no's, including me, 3.
Including me, no.
Says 4. Okay. Yes, RV says yes. Okay. So RV, hold on, please. Please stop me if I don't come to you before moving to the next case. Okay. Next one. Next one means next panelist. Nandini has given some perspective. I have shown you a little more. Notwithstanding the return of such confidential material and copies thereof, the recipient, together with its employees, shall continue to be bound by the provisions of this agreement. Second paragraph is more of concern to me. Very Shiv is Dr. Shiv Dhawan.
No. In this, I mean, I served 28 years in a company in a variety of roles.
Right.
I returned 30th of November 21. I had a relieving letter and were very happy, very grateful that I had finally been left. But nowhere have they asked me, and I know a lot of confidential information about the organization, about customers, enough to write a blockbuster book. But no one has asked me that thou shalt not reveal anything as thou shalt as long as you live.
Okay.
I gave back my laptop and that was it, but they don't have a clue whether I have taken that thing on that onto another laptop.
Right.
In fact, at this point of time, the laptop is back with my company and I have the data lying on my personal laptop. Do what you want.
All right.
Because you have a great reputation, Dr. Shiv.
So what should be here is fine. You have given it. I don't know how many copies you made of it. But should you be caught later or anything traced back to you, legal action against this will be initiated against you. That should be part of the NDA. I'm taking your word for it.
I'm still reading. Yes, I'm still reading the second question. What is the concern to me? Notwithstanding the return of such confidential, and I'm saying as much as I understand. We know NDAs, contracts are written legal language and it's very difficult to read and understand, very long, complex sentences also. Such confidential material and copies thereof, notwithstanding the return of such confidential material and copies thereof, the recipient, together with its employees, shall continue to be bound by the provisions of this agreement. Does this mean that is endless? Even if I have returned, I still cannot talk about it. Talk, disclose, use. What does NDA mean? I'm not disclosing. I'm not telling
Daman,
out.
another example.
But I'm
Daman, another
using that
example.
information in my new job.
Daman, another example. Now, every time you finish an assignment or you leave one company and you join, there's something known as LinkedIn, where you update your profile. Is that a case of NDA violation?
Yeah, we are going
I have
beyond
worked- I
that,
have
but
worked-
I understand this.
I
Yes.
have worked on passport seva. I have done this. Now,
Yes.
is that a violation to the
You
Ministry of
have
External Affairs?
disclosed, because in the NDA you had written, you can't even disclose
I
the
will not
company
disclose
name.
that I will be working on that, but I have told you that I was doing the user application testing. Now what?
Why on LinkedIn, Dr. Shiv, then? In your
Why?
CV you write. LinkedIn is known
Yeah,
to the
but
whole
in your
world.
CV,
CV is known to
Yeah,
few
and you
people
put
only.
it- Yeah, but then what should I write? I have done this work for a government department of this. This is okay.
Right.
But if you
Quickly,
have said, you know,
we'll give time to Saurabh and Vedi also.
yeah.
Go ahead, please.
You see, it-
So I would definitely not go with such a this thing, because the risks are unknown, and the period is also infinity. So the people, the employees may have shifted, and as Dr. Shiv mentioned about it, right? It is
Mhm.
practically not possible to do it. So maybe it may not be possible. It's my personal view. I will not take a risk of going with such a agreement.
Good. Good. Thanks.
Very
Saurabh.
true. Yeah, Daman. Yeah, very true. But do we read such type of clauses when we are signing or when we are going for the employment? So
Why
that's the
employment,
main
Saurabh?
thing.
I'm saying at the time of employment, and especially if it's my first employment, you are HR head, right? You give me
Right.
this thick bundle, sign it and sign it.
Right.
I'm saying after the employment, even when we have become senior people, 10, 15, 20, 35 years of experience, we do sign NDAs with clients. With the employer, it is only once in a life, most likely.
Right.
But we sign many
But-
NDAs with clients. Do we read? I'm not sure. I do not know.
Very,
So I think,
very,
Saurabh, I think we do need something like this, whether in this form or not, because if the organization has an NDA, it comes spills over from each individual.
This is what
Organization
happens with the.
should be-
This is what
So
happens in the projects. This is what happens in
organization
the
have
project.
organization have, basically have a legal you can say weapons with them to
Next pulse, dipstick check quickly about reality, right? One we have already done. Two actually we have done already, right? Never sign without reading NDA. Someone says, Nandini, that's great. But now let me play that role once again. I am the head. You are an employee. And Puneet is the customer. I sign the NDA with the customer. Nandini, you don't sign, right? And it is written in NDA. And this NDA is not with the customer and the boss only. It is applicable to all the employees working on this assignment. So you don't get to read, but you get to get fastened with it, if you want to use that term. Great. Thank you very much. Puneet, over to you.
Well, actually, from a legal practice perspective, it's quite simple. Because
Very
for us,
simple.
it is that,
Wow.
when there is, yes, when we sign NDAs, when it's about returning the documents, then we already know well in mind that we need to return the case files, etc., and things are kept in such a fashion. And interestingly, a lot of the legal fraternity is still in physical form. So how much of a digitization has come in the other industries? In the legal fraternity, digitization is still very, very nascent.
Okay.
Like very few firms maintain scanned copies of documents. But
Okay.
again, even those scanned copies of documents, it's very rare. Like nowadays during the pandemic, there were some e-filings, etc. Why there were scanned copies of pandemics,
Right.
and that also. When we
Right.
maintain these copies for each client, especially if it's a corporate client and there's going to be a lot of documents, so scanning, petitions of, let's say, 100, 200, 300 pages takes up a lot of space along with annexures.
Yeah.
So we normally keep a separate memory device for them, and we are all prepared. When it's over, we just hand over everything.
Okay.
It's very simple.
Okay.
And for employees, the access that is there also is restricted with respect to, the physical file is in the office. They cannot really take copies of that. So it's easier, I would say, for the legal fraternity, which is still
Alright.
in the physical form of dealing with business.
All right.
In the digital form of doing business, in an organization, how much ever you may tell an employee, okay, he cannot make a copy. There are
Okay.
softwares organizations have implemented where you cannot email it on your personal email IDs, etc.
Great.
But I have come across cases of employees who simply pick up their cell phone and take just screenshot of confidential information on computers and laptops. So, how would you ever control that? Imagine somebody just picking up their wife's phone and taking a picture of confidential information. So you put the best state-of-the-art security that doesn't allow, let's say, it to be forwarded, emailed, copied, etc., etc. But something so simple as this, you would not really be able to prevent. So, to a lot of extent, I feel like these clauses are there, but how implementable they are is very, very
Exactly.
questionable on a
Exactly. I
In fact,
agree
the
with you.
point that you brought up, this is what we faced in my organization. And what we did was that we were at the cusp of the COVID period. So we moved into a very thin client environment where everything was on OneDrive. So you access through, you could access from any laptop, anything, but you couldn't copy out anything from there. And as you mentioned about telephones and all, no mobile phones were allowed into the ODCs. And because of being thin client,
Right.
we tried having virtual ODCs on the same floor, could have 3-4 clients. But so even though there were sealed entrances and all that, so we had taken care of that. So that
Very good.
this person was taking nothing out. Even if I was working, even we were working from home, connecting through VPN to the system, we taken care of that. I was personally involved in the moving of people from the brick and mortar office to the residences.
Right.
So we have not come across a single case of data mismanagement in the last 3 years.
Great. Thank you very much. So it seems, as I doubted in the beginning, that we'll fall short of time. I have some questions.
Daman,
More. Yes.
you
please.
wanted me to probably remind you
And what was that? Sorry. Yes, I forgot exactly.
on this client confidentiality when client has come back to you.
Go ahead, please. Yes.
Okay, before that, I'll start off with the NDA part.
2 minutes only. Yes, we need to.
Yeah, I will finish up before that. I'll finish up before that. So the time when the BS777 the first time when the NDA was to be created, that's the time I was in a IT company where I was part of it to create the NDA. So I read, but the point is whether I stopped asking 1 or 2, 3 things, whether it is to be done, not to be done, but the certification is important. So we did it, we signed it.
Yeah.
But in terms of enforcing of those agreements, those days were different. It's very difficult to do it, but at least for whatever that Dr. Shiv has now also gave an example, that controls in place in terms of anything that you do on OneDrive or even sending a mail with an attachment Azure or something that captures of all those. Even now, when I came out of the organization that I was working for, there is a very clear thing. I've about 5 GB of personal information, which I had to take it out, and I was not able to take it out. So there's a formal process, raise a GSD, go to the particular IT to take it on a pen drive. Nothing is enabled. Then finally they enable it. They make it on your pen drive and they give it. So this is something confidential, which I said it is asked for. And also the client part of it, wherever the outsourced party, your managed services, wherever you back up certain things in your cage data center, all those, there has been quite a few places.
I'll give you $1 million. I'll give you $1 million. Give me one.
Let me complete. They have asked for it. They have given. Everything is done. How effective was it? Supposing if you have 10 different backups you have taken, have you given all the 10 backups or only one that you have given back to them, or destroyed those only 1 or 2? The rest of things are still there. That effectiveness is a question, but people are trying to enforce and deploy that. But the only thing is, it comes within our own discipline. If I've signed something, I need to follow it. If everybody follows that, I think it should probably fall in place.
Great. Thank you very much. So my suggestion is, this is going into part 2, definitely, which is going to be the next fortnight. My suggestion, we don't change the panel. If you all are okay, I'm happy to continue that way. Yes, no, quickly panelists. Sure. Including the judge also. Puneet, if you can spare time once again, it'll be great. Date not fixed yet, time is fine, 8:30 to 9:30. Sometimes today there's Nandini only. There have been a couple of people who have come from across countries, so timing is roughly kept like that. 1 hour is the duration also.
I'm fine.
I'll check with you once again, but as of now I'm taking yes from all.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Great. So it'll be part 2.
Thing is, Taman,
Yes.
just only one thing I have a suggestion. 8:30, 9:30 may be
Yes.
okay for a time, but a Friday on a 8:30, 9:30 doesn't bring in more participants, is my gut feel.
Tell
So
me
let
the
us try
date.
to shift.
Tell me the day.
Uh,
Yes.
I will check and let you know. And based on my
Yeah.
earlier experiences and quite a few things, I'll just tell
Right.
you.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
can probably, but Friday
We
is
can-
a bad day. Only the
can.
panels and 1 or 2 participants are there.
I have my views, but I'll wait for you. I don't mind changing the day.
No,
Yes,
it's just my view. We can also see
Yeah.
it in the practicality. So let us,
Great.
or even to shift it earlier in the day, we need to probably look at it.
Great. Great.
Yeah.
Quickly, I'll show what's coming up from my side. Force major clauses. Again, I think we'll go into part 3 also, it seems to me, right? But quickly, I want to show the upcoming activities from me. And here I share the screen. I've been working on a mission zero employment in India. It's a big dream. I know this, we know this. The platform will be, the name will be Bringle. Some of you perhaps would have noticed for last 6-7 months, I've been talking, writing about Bringle. I'm a principal mentor and a goodwill ambassador with Bringle. We are publishing a book, Sone Ki Chidiya Ko Jagao, Awakening of the Golden Bird, as we were long ago, right? So with zero unemployment, we will be able to achieve that. So a co-authored this book will be out in August, roughly this year. We are expecting, if you all, that's an appeal to all countrymen, wherever they are, men and women, no discrimination, 300 rupees pre-booking. We are looking at 40,000 copies to be booked in 2 years. So if you can help me, that'll be great help. Do this yourself. I've done this myself. My family members are doing it. My contacts have requested, and here sitting contacts requesting, please do this. Full reports will be shared with you how that money has been used. All profits will be used in education in rural areas in India, right? That's guaranteed. I'm involved in this myself. This is what I'll say. Next is I'm presenting with Professor Anchita live from a different platform. This is not my platform, it's IEEE platform, about copyrights. I believe that's also one big challenge we have. What, why, and how. 30th April, time is 6 p.m. IST. Registration link here, BVI cam, if you look at, you will be able to find easily. Otherwise, you can write to me. In this, all participants are given the certificate also automatically. The next one, I was leaving blank, but we are now clear that it's going to be part 2 of the NDA. Now I'll not even say NDA and force major clause. Part 2 will be NDA only. At this moment, if you all can switch on cameras, I would like to take a picture also. And few seconds, everyone, while we have gone 3 minutes over already, if anyone wants to put in any comments, especially request to Puneet as judge, if she wants to wind up the session. I'm assuming no one else is
Well,
switching on
Taman,
camera.
I think everybody shared.
Go ahead.
Everybody has shared very good perspectives on the non-disclosure agreement and from the different walks of their professional careers, experiences that they have come. And yes, looking forward to the next session where we can discuss more aspects of the NDA, because honestly speaking, I think the NDA is a very undermined document. Today, people sign and give NDAs left, right, center, everywhere, and it's not given much of a thought. Terms of engagements, agreements like MOUs, people actually get them vetted, read those documents, but non-disclosure agreements are just like the underdog documents nobody cares about.
Just
So I think this is a good subject, and taking it further in next session would also be a great idea. And looking forward to hear from all the panelists on this subject again.
Great. Thank you very much. As the audience, Vinayak, Santosh, if you want to put in any words.
Thanks for this opportunity. I was looking for a part 2 where we can really understand how to deal with the severe NDA lapses. I think that will be a really
great.
I think awakening for all of us.
Good.
Because there are, what I see is people are now giving their integrated command centers on a rental basis.
Right.
So there are a lot of process risk, trade risk, which will be easily compromised. There are inclusion detection agreements where thefts are to be controlled, but if the failure is there, the entire bank can be looted.
Right.
So a lot of firefighting, I think, can be really come from the
Okay.
valuable speakers.
Okay. Thank you very much. Vinay,
Thanks.
you have also
Uh,
unmuted yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice to participate in the meeting. Most of the things normally, all NDA, everything, whatever it is,
Mhm.
everybody simply blindly signs it. Really, yeah. Okay, but as far as most of the people who are very genuine, definitely they did not have, they did not bother about it. But only crooks are there. They play some role. In that case, only we have to interpret all the things, and other. It will be a very laborious task.
Great.
Naturally, okay.
Great.
It involves so much legal experts to interpret all these things, and it will take
Understood.
more time to book any person in that
Great.
respect also. Yeah,
Great.
that's what my feeling. As far as so far I have come across so many NDA and everything, I have also executed NDA, but this is the practical aspect.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
By the way,
Thank
the cases that I have been picking up, all NDA, all are real cases, and not only from India, these are from multiple countries. And these are my own NDAs. That means I would have signed this either as an employee or
The point I wanted to bring up here that, especially the NDA, the force majeure from a risk perspective, when we look at creating business continuity plans, and I have been seeing this here in my own organization, that is usually overlooked. The only risk when we look at it from availability perspective, confidentiality, integrity of data, usually three perspectives we look at. Nobody, the confidentiality, integrity of data risks are usually missing in every BCP.
Yeah.
And this is something I have over last 7 years, every time I've done internal audits, I have pointed this out. That yes, availability, the talk of people, the talk of loss of
Great.
power, the talk of UPS going down. But somehow these two things are not covered. We are not putting our mind to seeing how there could be a data leak or a misuse of data,
Right.
even as I would say, a hypothetical situation, as you say, think of a way. I mean, I remember we were doing a project, and I'll just take a minute from you.
Yeah, please.
I was advising an organization in Canada, UN entity, and at that point of time, there was a bomb blast at Heathrow. Those of you remember that. And one of my colleagues was an Irishman, and he was furious. Like, we were sitting in Canada, he was furious, my country. So he flew me down. I mean, I had no business with doing that, but he took me down, and we were buddies, we were neighbors.
Right.
And what we did was we sent out with the Heathrow people, and we want to understand that this should never happen again. So what we did was we took a layout of the airport, broke into small grids, maybe 10 feet by 6 feet, call the people and give them 48 hours.
Mhm.
And we said, now use your imagination. Maximum damage you can cause with whatever is in the space. Popcorn machine, this.
Great.
48 hours, come up with that.
So it
And in
seems
48 hours,
it
they
seems
had
Shiv,
172 ways of blasting Heathrow.
it seems Shiv, we can spend perhaps one full session on this. So I'm making notes of what's coming up next, and I'll request you to come up again and take full
Sure.
time,
So
more
you see,
time, and
this
then
is what you
there's
require.
a learning here.
We require to not only see the clause, but to see how we can put that into our planning. That is where
Right.
our value comes in.
Right. Yeah. Great.
That's where
So
we
with this,
contribute.
9 minutes over. With my apologies, let's clap for all of us, the
Sure.
panelists, the judge, and the participants. Without
Thank you. Thank you.
all this will not be successful. So part 2 is known to us, date not known yet. Day I will await from RV first. I'm happy to change the date. Let's see the response. Great. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodness.
Have a great
Bye.
weekend.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Long
Have a great
weekend.
weekend.
Great long weekend. Great. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.